Hi, I'm Mike Marino, and this is a brand new episode of Live from My Mother's Basement. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Live from My Mother's Basement. Folks, this is the first time I'm actually doing my podcast on location. I'm actually on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. This is the Freedom of the Seas. I actually just got off the stage from performing my show, but I wanted so badly to have this guest on the show today, whenever it is that you're watching this, whether it's daytime or nighttime. But I had to grab him, so I figured, you know what? For the first time, we're going to do on the location. So here we are in the theater, and I got one of the baddest ass, coolest motherfucking jugglers you've ever seen in your entire life. I got him right here. It's so rare, and we're going to watch him juggle. We're going to find out why he does what he does, how he does what he does, and how we just got to meet. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Albert Lucas Moreira. Hope I said it right.
You said it absolutely.
All right.
Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely.
And killer set tonight, by the way.
Yeah, man, that was fun.
Killer set, yeah.
They had a late night show, and I was lucky enough to come out at 10 o'clock and do this big, beautiful theater. What's this theater called?
That's the Royal Theater.
The Royal Theater.
The Royal Theater.
And there's a lot of entertainers that come on these cruise ships. And from jugglers, the singers, you name it.
Illusionists. Incredible vocalists.
Magic. The band itself.
Band is
and then
excellent.
a play. Sometimes you see Hairspray. Sometimes you see Chicago, Grease. And then a big orchestra that blows the room away. But I've never had the opportunity to say to another entertainer, hey, wait a minute. Can we do my podcast? And is there a way that I can get you to do what you do on this show? So for the first time, this is what we're going to do. But it's so much more than a juggler. When I watched his show, the history of his career is sick. I'm going to say from 10 years old. He's going to tell you the truth. The only reason why I say from 10 years old is because I saw him on one of the greatest shows of all time. He's going to tell you all about it. So let's start with, where the hell are you from?
Oh, I was originally born in London, England.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I didn't even know that. He doesn't even have an accent.
In fact, I came over. I always wanted to go to politics because my mother and father came over on the Queen Mary.
Is that right?
Right. So I could say, hey, I came over on the boat, right?
Did you?
Yeah, I came over.
Kind of.
The original Queen Mary, which is in Long Beach Harbor now, and moved to Hollywood, California, and that's where I grew up.
The Queen Mary actually is, I guess, stuck on the ground in Long Beach, California. And a lot of people like us know that. Well, he knows that for another reason. I know that because that's where the ships leave from to come here.
Yeah, that's a beautiful place.
Long Beach, San Pedro.
San Pedro Harbor, yeah,
right.
At the World Cruise Center. It's
So
really nice.
Your parents were on that ship?
They were. My dad was part of an acrobatic act called the Los Gatos Trio. He had two other partners, Nick and Tommy. And when they finished in Europe, that's what you did. You sailed back.
So there was entertainment on that ship?
Well, curious, as performers would do, they book basic class, right? And then they volunteer to perform to get an upgrade.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, this is so crazy because if you've ever been on the Queen Mary.
There's more. The comedy plate spinning act that I do.
Yes.
Right, okay, my dad was a Shriner, so he did this comedy plate spinning act for the Crippled Children's Hospital all the time, and I enjoyed doing it. So while the Queen Mary was, it was just converted to a hotel, I would say, 80 just before the Olympics. So I went to them and I said, hey, my dad was on the ship. Here I am. If you go back to the ship log, I'm a passenger on there as a little guy. I said, I'd love to perform in the main dining room again where my dad performed because they had Sunday brunch. So I finally got to perform at the Queen Mary.
There's just too much history in this man's world. People go to look up the Queen Mary. It's a museum, a historical landmark. They have murder mysteries on it. They even had comedy on it. It's actually across the street from the Laugh Factory in Long Beach, California.
Sure. Yeah.
And his parents were on it as travelers. And then they performed on it. Now he's saying he performed on it.
I had to do it. I had to do it, man.
It's funny. If you go on the Queen Mary, it's the doors and the toilets are still the way it used to be. So
right.
it makes you think that people were a lot smaller back at that time.
Yeah, and all the mirrors are rose glass, so you always look good.
Yeah,
But you could never
yeah.
tell if you were a little peaked.
I never even
But
knew
anyways,
that.
yeah, that's how I got to the United States. The Los Gatos had gone over to London Palladium to be the opening act for Liberace, the famous pianist who was doing the London Palladium, and that's when I was born. And years later, I got to work opening act at Caesar's Palace, and I did the opening act for Liberace way back in the day.
His family, the history of what they were doing, I was blown away to find out about, not by talking. I watched it in the movie screen. He puts it up on a big movie screen, and you watch his family. And then you watch how he came in to be a performer with the family. It's really, really something to see. We're going to figure out how we can have this podcast and have that stuff shown so you people can actually see what I'm talking about. But we're lucky because we have him here to tell you about it. So when did you start saying, hey, Dad, I want to be in showbiz too?
Well, Dad, they were part of vaudeville era, and my dad loved juggling, and he worked with all the best jugglers of that era. Now I come along, and he's thinking, how do you teach a little guy, a little tykester, how to juggle? So he got this idea of using silk scarves.
Oh, did you bring it?
I have some, so I'll be able to do them for you. But I don't know if he's the originator. The juggling historians think that might have been the original idea of learning how to juggle. We don't know for sure, but we'll see how that works. But I learned.
We're going to say it. His father originated the scarf juggling. And wait till you see it.
Could be. And so I do the scarves, and I learned to do 3 at 3, 4 at 4. And at 5 years old, I started working full time, and been paying federal income tax every year since the age of 5. Yeah.
If you're working as a juggler at the age of 5, it's not normal.
No.
So you didn't go to regular school? Or?
Well, it's not normal in a sense, but my dad, I went to Van Ness Avenue public school. My dad was really cool. He wanted me to have that public school access. So I went from there to junior high school in Hollywood, California.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And until
a Hollywood guy.
Oh, okay. I was right across from KHJ Studios. And of course, it was then Desi Lou's Studios. It became Paramount. And my dad worked with Desi Arnaz and worked with many of those greats from the years. So when he retired to start my career, it was not uncommon that he'd get a phone call for lunch. It was incredible the amount of people that would come by to say hello. The Los Gatos were the #1 opening act for the William Morris Agency, which still exists. It's called Endeavor Artists now.
Yeah.
And it was just wonderful. And to see the glimpse of those stars and understand that old era vaudeville and then that work ethic. Now that's what I remember the most, that work ethic, right? And I don't know. I don't know if it still exists. I hope it does. But I think it exists in your profession doing the circus with the clubs, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'll do anything to continue to have a career in the entertainment business. I've been in the entertainment business since I'm a kid. And yeah, you got to work really hard, but who knows what people go through to make it these days, put up a TikTok and away you go. This is a hardworking man working in this industry since so young. When he's mentioning Desi Lou Productions, I only know of the Hollywood High School because I drove by it. I can only imagine what it would have been like to go to high school there then. I don't know what it would be like to go now, but I would assume then everybody wanted to be an entertainer, no?
Oh, well, it's everyone you get a lot of people that came, obviously coming for the dream, right? And you had a lot of it. But I always loved how you had in that group, you think of actors, maybe singers, really famous stars. But think about the stuntmen, the scenic designers, the people who did all those orchestrations, right? And then you think of the costumers, right? And that whole industry. And these people were so good at what they did, right? They're as good as what you and I do. They were that good. And of course, Edith Head is very famous, won many, many Oscars, for the studios and her costume designs. But to see the last few minutes of that, of the old studio system, was really, really kind of cool. And as a kid, as I began to perform, and I was learning my skill set, and eventually, I ended up doing the Ed Sullivan Show. And that came about.
We got to build that up. I got some questions before we get to the Ed Sullivan Show.
So what happened was I entered the International Juggling Association, the IJA. They have an annual world championship.
Who even knows that?
It's called the IJA. It's the world's oldest theatrical juggling organization. It also deals with competitions and records. And they were having their competition in 1969 in Los Angeles. And I competed in 69, and then 1970, at the age of 10, I actually won for 7 rings at 10 years old. The record is still stands today. And from that, in the newspaper article, Liberace's manager saw the Los Gatos, and I'd performed, I'd won this, and that he invited my dad up. I did my routine for him and his staff, and they loved it, and I got hired. And then from there, we went on his U.S. and world tour. But that's when the next big break. When we were in New York, you're going to Carnegie Hall, right? Incredible, right? When we were in New York, some of the talent scouts from the Ed Sullivan Show saw me and said, "Hey, we got to have you on the show." And when they found out that the Los Gatos had actually been on the show in 1951, in fact, they went viral, as we say.
Yeah.
Going viral on the Ed Sullivan Show. I always tell the audience, could you go viral 50 years ago, 30 years ago? And of course, they go, "Oh, no, this is a modern thing." Oh, hell no. Think of the Ed Sullivan Show. Think about
biggest show on television at the time.
Sunday night. No, it still holds the record, according to the Television Academy of Arts and Sciences, as the most watched television show, one-off variety show every Sunday night. Still holds the record. And think about how many people were discovered, like the famous concert pianist, Yitzhak Perlman. Concert violinist, Yitzhak Perlman. He was discovered on that show. Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5. Many musical groups performed. The Beatles, the Doors, oh my God, the Rolling Stones. Think of the Russian ballet came, Nureyev performed.
Popo Gigio.
Think of all the sports stars. You had the Yankees, you had boxers, all of them were on there.
And your family.
And I was very proud. We were one of the father's sons, and then I became the youngest performer ever to appear on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Wait till you guys see his appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show. Now, we got to get it up on this channel somehow. We'll figure it out. But I watched it. I was sitting in the audience. I guess it was the last ship that we were on, the last cruise. No, well, the first time I saw you, because I saw you this ship too. It was on the last ship. And I'm like, this guy was on the Ed Sullivan Show. He's wearing gold little pants, which might not have been a good idea if he did that now.
As I say, I turned down a lot of money to perform in those gold LeMay shorts again.
It's adorable, and Ed Sullivan is just the Ed Sullivan we know, and he introduces him. He talks to the family. It was famous. It's just really, really unbelievable. Were you nervous? What is it like to be 10 and be on a show like that?
You want to have?
Did they tell you the whole world is watching? Don't fuck this up, kid.
You want a real story?
Yeah,
you want a real story. Okay, so I'm a kid. Right? And I'm performing in Las Vegas. I'm for Liberace. I'm doing Royal Command performances. I'm performing all these famous theaters and places. I have no idea of what bad is or failing. I have no idea what's failing. So I get the call to do the Ed Sullivan Show. And every adult started to come up to me and go, "Hey, you're going to be on the Ed Sullivan Show." "Wow, you know who was on the Ed Sullivan Show, right? Wow, you're going to do good, right?" Because that's... And this happened all of a sudden I became aware that maybe I should do a really good job on this show because all these famous people were on it. And so I get there, right? And Ed Sullivan remembers my dad and Los Gatos. He says, "Wonderful, we're going to put your boy on the end." But before me, and this is a live show, before me is guess who?
Oh.
Joan Rivers.
Oh, really?
Joan Rivers,
right?
Joan
Rivers.
Oh, yeah. Now, she is on, and she's doing a killer set. So guess what happens?
You got nervous?
No, she stretches.
Oh, really?
She stretches.
Oh,
she stretches.
Man.
So
fucking
the production.
comics.
Well, look, man, that was your thing. You can't blame somebody for going for it, right? This is your chance. You go for it. Ed Sullivan. And so but she doesn't know me from Adam, right? So the production manager is coming backstage and says, "Look, you got to cut 15. You got to cut 20 seconds. You got to cut 30 seconds. You got to cut 90 seconds." So by the time she stretched about 3 minutes, so I lost half my routine.
Oh.
Here comes the reality now. Here comes the reality. Okay. I'm standing back there and I'm thinking as a kid that they don't think I'm good enough. So I start trying to show them, look, I'm warmed up. Look, I'm warmed up. I can do these tricks. I'm really good. Look, my costume's ready, right? Why are you doing this to me? I can do this job. Why are you taking from me? And I took it like I had done something wrong.
Oh.
Right? That's how I took it. And so we were down to about 3 minutes. And so my dad said to me, he says, "Albert, do you know what you have? What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I'll have to do this trick and I'll do that trick." And then he said, okay, now remember, let the orchestra, they'll stay with you. They know they're going to, do not change. Just do those 3 things. And they're very good. They'll stay with you. They know what you're going to finish with. So I finish it. Ed Sullivan calls us over. You know, it's a big deal getting called over, just like on Carson and any of those shows. And he remembers the dad being with Ed Sullivan, the Los Gatos, and he was very gracious. And I go back upstairs, and I'm like, I look at my dad, and I tell him, I'm sorry, Dad. What did I do? I got, it was a total cut. They cut all me.
Right.
And I just started crying,
Oh.
And my dad was holding me. And then the production manager came up to say, hey, what a great job I had done. He sees me in my dad's arms crying. He says, well, what's wrong? He says, well, he thinks this was his fault that he wasn't ready, that you cut him, right? He says, what? And so, I tell people I left my childhood in that theater, because after that day, I knew what failure was, and I knew what hurt was in regard, and I never experienced that in regard to my profession. So then the musical director comes up to tell me what a great job I had done, right? These are men with kids. They know what to do. They come up and say, hey, no, it was not your fault. You were ready to go. You were at rehearsal. You were on time. It was wonderful. We're going to have you back. And this starts spreading through the Ed Sullivan Theater. Right? Yeah, I get a little emotional.
Oh,
Telling
wow.
the story. And eventually Sullivan comes up himself. And he says, I hear that you think that you did something wrong. You were the most professional actor we ever had. Young man, you're a fine young man. Your dad, we're very proud. And he was so gracious. And that one, I left my childhood in that theater.
And you became a superstar.
Well,
leave it to a comedian to go over to boy,
I have
we
no
know
grievance.
what that's like.
We hold no grievance.
Did you see her when it was done? They say, hey, Joan, not for nothing, man.
I saw her years later, and of course she that was one of her big moments, by the way, too. That was one of her breakout moments that time on the television show. So no animosity at all. But that's a story from a kid who grew up real fast.
So from there, now your father was already pretty famous and successful doing what he was doing before you came on the scene.
Right.
And then he adds you to the show. Who was the other 2 guys in the video with your dad?
It's Nick Gatto and Tommy Swift. And they're unfortunately, all 3 are no longer with us.
Right.
Okay. But Dad retired when I went to public school. So I would say right around when I started working, because he knew he wanted me to have that the public school education, and he wanted me to have that experience. And, he taught me how to play baseball and fly cast fish. He was a great dad. Juggling was the smallest portion of the time we spent with each other.
Right.
We had just camping, using a compass. He always said, going out in the woods, he says, what was it? He said, going to the woods is one thing. He says, getting out of the woods you got to know what you're doing. So he taught me how to use a compass and a map and all that. But he retired with Los Gatos when I was about 4, and was just helping me with my career.
Really?
Oh God, yeah.
That's young.
Yeah, he was.
So do you have brothers that do what you do, or brothers or sisters?
I have a younger brother who's 8 years my junior. He goes under David Lucas, and we're a blended family. So he same father, different mother. And then I have an older brother who started out as a juggler, and he got interested in medicine, and he went on to become a neurosurgeon.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So you're the only one that took the ball forward.
I'm the only one that stuck with it all these years.
How about Mom?
Oh, Mom was just a mom all those years. Yeah, she's still alive. She's be 96.
Not only is father, the entertainer of this sort, but in the videos, they were also standing on each other's shoulders.
That's right. They did 3
Is that
men high.
acrobatics?
Yeah,
Acrobatic.
They called the Los Gatos Trio, and they were 3 guys who competed at the AAU National Championship in Baltimore, Maryland, and they met each other, became friends, and they said, "Hey, let's get into show business. Let's put an act together." And so Milton Berle had a nightclub there in Baltimore, and every Thursday night was amateur night, and that's where they tried out. And he says, "You guys, the way you're jumping around and throwing each other and climbing each other, you guys look like 3 cats." And that's the name, Los Gatos. That stuck.
Oh, that's Los Gatos?
Los Gatos.
Los Gatos.
Los Gatos.
That's Spanish?
I think so.
For 3 cats.
3 cats.
Oh, wow.
And then when I did the Ed Sullivan Show, like my dad before, when the Los Gatos appeared in '51, they got over 30 telegrammed contractual offers right after the show. I got offered the Tropicana in Las Vegas. And then that's when my Las Vegas career started. I went to the Folie Bergère at the Tropicana and became its youngest performer. And it was really sad to see it get blown up just a few days ago. But I'll tell you what.
October 9, I think it was.
I got a buddy of mine to get me a piece of that stage.
Oh, wow.
So I got a piece of that stage, yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was a great show. The Folie Bergère was just incredible. I was there in the era when Elvis came to Las Vegas, and he was at the first hotel off the Strip at the Hilton. And in fact, I won Variety Act of the Year the same year he won Entertainer of the Year, and I got to meet him backstage. It was really cool.
And Milton Berle.
Milton Berle, oh my God. There were so many. Danny Kaye was so great. I met him many times.
Danny Kaye.
Oh God, yeah.
Wow, Danny Kaye.
Jackie Gleason was so funny. His character off was very similar.
Yeah.
And they had all worked with Dad in the vaudeville era, or they did the Had a Call Road Show. Remember the Had a Call medicine that they used to drink that was make you feel really good, but they found later it was like 1/3 alcohol, so they could sell it during Prohibition. Look it up. It's called the Had a Call.
The Elixir.
Had a Call Road Shows. Yeah.
This is hilarious.
And then years Ronald Reagan and some of the California shows that he did was the MC. And I got to meet him later on when he was governor and perform for him when he was president of the United States.
There's also something even more amazing about this man.
Uh-oh.
It's all about holding a record in the Guinness Book. I think somebody mentioned the Guinness Book of World Records to me recently. And I want to, I think when I was younger, it was like famous. Everybody knew about it. I hope it's still famous. I hope everybody still knows what the actual book is. I don't even know where you get this book, if it's still out there, or maybe everybody's getting it online now. But tell us about your experience with the Guinness Book of World Records.
Well, it's in the 70s, the Russian circus, Moscow National Circus. And they have this Academy of Circus Arts in Moscow that just is this industrial grade, turns out the greatest circus performers, And of course, it's totally state sponsored.
It's Russia?
It was originally in Russia, and still in Moscow, the Moscow State Circus. And so we started hearing about all these great records, and I had one from the juggling competition when I was 10 years old, right, for juggling 7 objects for 1 minute.
So you held a record for 7 objects
when I was 10 years old.
When 10.
And then the Guinness Book proliferated, obviously.
But see, I don't want to miss nothing, because I know there's other people watching right now. They got questions.
Okay.
You're 10 years old. You're just a kid. Most people don't even know what a record is in general, much less a juggling record. Well, there's other 10-year-old kids. Did you say to them, hey, by the way, I have a record for juggling?
No.
And I'm like, do you want to play baseball with us?
I love playing baseball.
You know what I mean?
My last day at public school, when I had to leave, and the principal wanted to find out, well, what are you doing, Albert? Are you getting your education? All right. And my dad was there. He says, well, his career is taking off. And he says, his career? He says, yes, he's a professional juggler. I didn't realize it, but on my last day of school, I had never told anybody in school that I was a juggler, nor did I ever juggle at any time showing off.
Well,
Isn't that crazy?
That's the thing. I mean, you would think you're in lunch going, hey, baby, look at me.
Never happened.
I got 7.
So the principal says, are you kidding me? You were on the outside. And I go, yeah. He says, would you mind performing? So on my last day of school, I ended up doing 6 shows in rotation for all the different classes to come to the auditorium and to see me perform, because nobody knew that their classmate for all these years was actually a professional
juggler.
Yeah,
was holding records.
Yeah, so Guinness, Guinness started proliferating in the early 80s as the Guinness Book of World Records was becoming more and more popular. And this is back when Norris McWhirter, the founding editor, ran it, and it was one of the state-of-the-art research books, meaning that if you looked in the Guinness and the Guinness book selected and said, hey, this is the record for the world's fastest car, the fastest speed ever attained, on water skis, the things like that. They were a research book. So I started going after the Moscow Circus juggling records. So I set 11, 12 rings, and then I won the U.S. National World Championship in 1984. And 84 was a great year. I was also a volunteer at the Summer Games, the Los Angeles 1984 Olympics. I performed at the tennis and baseball, which was demonstration sports. And that's Steffi Graf won that year in tennis. And I got to meet many of the Olympians. And
in 84?
In 84. And I was I was on the volunteer on the Torch Tour as well. And so from that and working in Las Vegas, I set those records, which was really cool. And that started my association with Guinness. And I went on to hold ice skating.
Who contacts who?
Well, at that time, they had editors in the United States. The Guinness Book of World Records was published by Sterling Publishing out of New York, which still exists today. They had the very first Guinness Book in the United States at 56 was the very first time it was here.
56 Guinness Book of World Records.
Right, 55 in England. It was originally started in 1955 in England. It was basically a book that was to settle bar bets, like what is the fastest bird? What is the furthest a golf ball has ever been hit? And so they made these beautiful books that could reference, and they would settle disputes or bets in bars.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
I'll kick your ass. What do you know? Get the book.
Have you seen some of those records? The Heaviest Twins. The record I always love is the guy who balanced 8 golf balls on top of each other without any sticky or anything like that. He had a special table set up because the earth vibrates, and he was able to balance 8 of those. I think it's one of the most incredible records. Nobody's ever broken it. But that became my association with Guinness. I went on to set about 28 different Guinness records. And then I did a sport called joggling, which was running events while juggling 3 objects. And in '87, I entered the Los Angeles Marathon, and I had an official start. I started at the very back. I was the last athlete at the very back, and I ran the Los Angeles Marathon without dropping a ball, setting the record for juggling 3 objects for a full marathon without dropping. And I went on to do about 12 other marathons after that. Now,
who does that? Who does that? I got an idea. I'm going to run a marathon, but
as we say, things must be really rough at home.
I'm going to juggle while I run. Well, I'll even take that a step further. You can watch him ice skating too, juggling. I don't know if I'm bringing this along too fast, but there's props on that stage, and I want to get to that. So tell us about the ice skating.
Well, so my dad had worked in Paris, and he worked at the Lido. Los Gatos worked at the Lido, and there was a young Adagio team there. And the young man was asking my dad, how do I lift this girl up so I don't hurt my back, and what muscles and what do I work to have the longest career possible? And so when I went to the Tropicana when I was 10 years old, he was now the producer of, Bob Turk was the producer of the Lido, and now he was the producer of Ice Capades. And the Tropicana was promoting the youngest performer, won the gold medal championship, Tour de Liberace, appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show. Now I'm at the Tropicana. And so he saw that, this Bob Turk from Ice Capades, which was in Santa Monica, California. And they came to see the show, and they said to my dad, but Bob knew Dad because he'd worked with him when he was coming up through the ranks. And he said, if your son could ice skate and juggle, well, there'd be a place for him, because there's a lot of famous ice skating jugglers through the years that Ice Capades had hired. And my dad said, well, it's funny you should say that. He just started ice skating, which was true.
At how old?
10 years old.
Oh.
Yeah, and there was we had a wonderful former world champion named Ronnie Robinson, and he had a ice palace, Ronnie Robinson's Ice Palace in Las Vegas. One of the greatest amateur and incredible what they call show skater. The audience loved him, and so he was the guy that got me started, and that was some of the hardest training I ever did, trying to move down on the ice and throw the things to not where I am, but where I'm going to be. And of course, I didn't just stand there. I was doing back crossovers and all. I was trying to move, and man, that took about 2 years. And then all of a sudden, one day, it clicked. I got the formula. And my dad called up Bob. All right, he's ready for the audition. So I went down to Santa Monica and I auditioned at the Ice Capade Chalet. Was hired, and little did I know it was going to be a 10-year career. And then working with all those Olympians taught me how to take care of myself. And of course, my background as a volunteer. I'd also volunteered at the '87 Olympic Festival. And I did a lot of NBA halftimes. I did a halftime in 1987 for the Lakers in '88. I did the Stanley Cup Finals for the Colorado Avalanche. And I did a lot of ABA. When you remember the ABA, Dr. J, and the old ABA? Yeah. So Pat Boone, who owned the Oakland Oaks, who won the world championship. That was my very first halftime.
Pulling out some names of some classic entertainers.
Yeah.
Pat Boone.
It wasn't until my father passed away that I began to unpack all this personal memorabilia, right? Because I was always kind of chased by that shadow of knowing how much my father had given up and my mom had given up to give me a shot at this career. Whether I knew it or not, part of my drive was I was just wanted my parents to think I didn't piss it away, that I was worth. I mean, I never thought I was special or exceptional, but
You're exceptional.
But I have a good
and
work
you're
ethic,
special.
and I'm teachable.
Not that many people ice skate and juggle or run a marathon.
Oh,
and
it was
juggle.
great.
Not that many people juggle.
Working with Dorothy Hamill and all those people, Ty and Randy, Scotty Hamilton, just to name a few, was
all
great.
These names from the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
When you got into the Guinness Book of World Records, now you were telling me recently that someone broke the record?
Equaled it. I hold the official record. I set the 10 ring world record, the 11 ring world record, the 12 ring world record, and the 13 rings.
And that's all in the Guinness Book of World Records. So
Guinness
you broke
Book.
your own record.
I did many times, but mostly I broke the old Russian records, the old Moscow Circus records. But this young man from Ukraine just tied my 13 ring record. I want to say congratulations. I held it for 22 years by myself.
22 years.
He didn't break it, which I'm very surprised. But I bet you either he's going to break it or he's going to get a girlfriend and he'll never come close again.
There you go. Well, we're never going to have him on live from my mother's basement. Now, you have a lot of memorabilia here on the stage. What is this? Tell us about
this
this
is some
stuff.
of my Guinness certificates.
Let's see. Could we show it?
Oh, that's just from the original folder from the Guinness Museum that I received. In 1997, they gave me the title of the greatest all-around juggler of the 20th century. And that's
Guinness Book of World Records.
How
cool is that?
Yeah, and this is the International Sport Juggling Federation, which is the new Sport Juggling Federation, trying to get it back into the Olympics. If you can see some of the logos and things on there, pretty cool.
Yeah, juggling should be in the Olympics.
Oh, it should. It was actually a long time ago.
It was?
As club swinging. Back in 1932 was the last time it was there.
What's the other one?
Oh, this is part of the competition rules of the International Sport Juggling Federation, which is really fun. We crafted that. We had competitions all over the world, and I was charged with, I'm not the president of it. My title is Director of Olympic Development. And what I'm trying to do is when you go into economically challenged areas of the world, how can you have a juggling competition? Because when you learn to juggle 3, 4, and when you get to 5 objects, which you can learn in a single day, something very magical happens with both the right side of your brain, your left side of the brain. Your eye-hand coordination improves, whether you drive a car, fly a plane, your handwriting. But mostly what people will use it for is, like when you're facing a problem and you're just sort of immersed in it and you can't figure it out and you go, hey, I'm going to go for a run or I'm just going to walk away from it. Well, if you pick up 3, 4, 5 balls and juggle, it's called a neural dump. You actually do the same thing, but right there within about 5 minutes.
A neuro dump.
A neural dump, yeah.
I have other dumps I take,
Ooh.
but a neuro dump I'm not good at. It's amazing. So here comes the final question before we get to see some action.
Okay, what do you got?
How do you decide what you want to juggle? Now, wait a minute. The reason why I present that is because when I watched you do your show, you don't just juggle with your hands, you did it with your mouth. And it kind of makes you wonder, okay, what made somebody go, give me some balls, I'm going to put them in my mouth, and that's what I'm going to juggle.
Yeah, that's, people think they're ping pong balls. I happen to do lottery balls.
I thought it was a ping pong ball.
I was lottery ball. I was hired by the Pennsylvania Lottery. They did a joke. They were doing this joke. They went, why go to this lottery? And they had this cheesy lottery, and the lottery machine was the guy popping the lottery balls out of his mouth, right? No, use the Pennsylvania Lottery. We're professional. It's honest. And that was the commercial.
Wow.
So I do it in my act. That's called mouth juggling, originated in vaudeville. In fact, a man and wife would pass 6 ping pong balls back and forth on stage. It was very well done. But normally what I try to do, I juggle tennis rackets. I juggle frisbees, street hockey balls. I balance hockey sticks. And I try to do some of the traditional rings, clubs, and things like that. And because people understand the weight of a tennis racket, the weight of a frisbee, the weight of a street hockey ball, right? They can, and then I balance a ladder on my chin. Who doesn't have a ladder floating around somewhere?
I forgot about these things. There's one other thing that I would like to talk about too. Hold on a minute. I don't see it. He spins plates. I haven't really seen the spin plate vaudeville type thing personally in a long, long time. And the only time I ever saw it was on television. And they play that music. That's right. And the plates spin. Well, he does it too. And you had a little bit of a story about that too, right?
Oh, yeah. My dad, he he loved that plate spinning act, and he would do it for the Shriners Hospital for the kids all the time. And he
Right.
worked with Danny Thomas, so he'd go to Memphis and do it for the hospitals there, and he would break those plates all over the place, and it was incredible. He'd go through 100 plates, and so what I do is I bring it back because, you know, some of those incredible routines, and in your profession as well. Think of the greats. You know, we talk about. The Ed Sullivan Show, you know, Richard Pryor was on the Ed Sullivan Show. Everybody
Well,
forgets
didn't you say you built these things for your father, or your father built them?
He built them for me. They're the reason I have in my act is they're the last props my dad made for me.
Right.
So it's kind of a tribute for him that I get to do it in the show. The kids love it. I run around a little bit though, because getting those plates on a ship that's moving is not an easy thing going. Yeah.
The people yell, they scream, and they cheer. It's number 1. It's number 2, 4. You get all excited. Everybody's on the edge of
What
their
was your
seats.
favorite trick that I did?
Are you going to do it?
I'm going to do it. Oh, okay. So, all right. Well, hey, you want me to head up now?
He gets all dressed up. He comes out looking really, really nice on stage. And he juggles many different things. One of the most fascinating things I thought was he does it in the dark, shuts all the lights off, and he's juggling things that are, what do you call it?
Luminous.
Luminous, glow in the dark.
Glow in the
They
dark?
glow
I
in the
go-
dark.
Do the frisbees. And I do
He
the,
can't even juggle with the lights on. He's doing it in the dark. And these things are blue and green and yellow. And it's very, very exciting. And it's all done to really great music. We can't play the music because we don't want to get
yes.
banged.
Copyright. Yeah.
But right now we are in the theater. We're having a lot of fun. It's late. We're all going to get off this ship tomorrow and go through customs and get back on and start all over again.
It's true. In fact, I was here practicing last night. Had the lights on. I was practicing on my 10 and 12 rings. Went pretty good. But then the ship started moving, and I couldn't catch a damn thing.
Yes.
I couldn't catch a damn thing. So I said, "That's it.
How do
I'm
you even
done."
juggle in the seas when the seas are they're like 10 feet? Oh, I was puking all day today, man. It was disgusting.
You know, I'm surprised they didn't make me perform because when the ship moves the most, they always put it on the juggler.
Oh, really?
When did this tradition happen? Oh, put the juggler on. He'll be fine. I go, no, he won't.
Who cares about him?
No, he won't.
It's not dangerous.
I can't adjust that fast.
All right. Well, let's bring it on. For the
All right.
first time here, we're actually going to see
I'm
if we
gonna go-
can't do this. All right.
All right, now the first one I'm gonna do for you guys. You hear me talk about my rings and my ring record, so I'm gonna do 7 objects. 7 objects is kind of the mark of a professional juggler. Here's 7 rings. I'm gonna show it to you, and then I'm gonna do a couple of things for you. This is 7 rings for 1 cycle. That's 7 throws, 7 catches. I'll do it for you again. There you go. Now, you heard me talk about juggling objects. People understand these are actually Roger Federer size and weighted tennis rackets. They're strong. You can play with these bad boys. They're not made for juggling. They're made for tennis. I love them. They're so well balanced. Wilson, thank you very much. You make a great tennis racket. Here we go. 4 tennis.
And the crowd goes wild.
Oh, I'm not done yet. Now I'm going to face you so you can see the pattern. Check it out. There's the splice. The 2 and 2. And there you go. A little tampering.
Uh-oh.
So, is that the first time you had someone perform on your show?
Yeah, especially a juggler. I can't believe I actually got this, and I'm so happy that the
Well,
people
I
here
wanna thank you.
Wait, you're not done, man. I see more props up there. You got to do those. What are the
bowling
ones
pins.
The bowling pins.
You want to see the bowling pin?
Yeah,
Okay.
come on. I'm making this guy work. The bowling pins.
We actually refer to them as Indian clubs.
Indian clubs.
Indian clubs. There we go.
All right, Albert, get it. This is fantastic. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Who gets to do what I do and find the people that I find?
Oh my God.
We're nowhere near my basement, that's for sure. We're in the middle of the ocean. There's bad seas outside right now. It was storming all day. I spent most of the day in my cabin because I was so seasick.
You always know when it's bad when you take the stairs and they have the little bags on every corner.
Oh, yes. They have the barf bags like
They
you
do.
might see in the back of a plane or in the...
Were you okay? Were you all right?
Yeah, you know.
There were a lot of people not so well today, I'm afraid.
How long have you been entertaining on ships?
Well, 7 years, not including the pandemic. And the reason it took me so long to go on the ships is I had the wrong impression. Look at this stage. This will rival any major theater in the country.
Yeah.
The staff is absolutely incredible. The lights are first rate. Music is great. The sound. And so I thought it was like something you did, if I may be so bold, at the end of your career.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't something you did while you were still in the prime of it. But I had it completely wrong. And I've only worked for Royal. And I got to say, thank you, Royal.
Me too.
Great staff. And also I want to thank for the way they treated their staff and myself included during the pandemic.
Yes.
And how they got us working again. And when they came back, their standards were just absolutely first rate. And they were very, very cautionary. They followed all the rules all over the world. And I just want to tip my hat and say it's a pleasure and an honor to work for Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines.
We are in the theater, and it's state of the art. And all the ships these days, I think they're averaging, like I'm looking around right now, maybe this is about 1,000 seats.
I would say.
But some of the newer ships are 1,500, maybe even 2,000. And when they fill them up, there's no better place to perform unless you're going to do a theater just this big on land. So this seems to be not the end of anybody's career, but almost could be a beginning.
Absolutely.
I don't know about you, but I got so many comedians calling me saying, how do I get on and how do you do what you do? So I only do Royal Caribbean. I'm very happy with my career on the ships and land. And I'm very happy that I got to have you come down and bond with us and show us something that no one's ever done on this podcast live from my mother's basement. So why don't you tell everybody how they can find you on the internet, and hopefully maybe they'll book a cruise sometime and you'll be the entertainer on the ship.
Oh, well, you can reach me at Sport Juggler on Instagram. That's where I seem to be getting all my DMs, Sport Juggler on Instagram. And you'll get my albertlucas.com and the international ISJF.com for any information on competitive juggling. There's going to be a big national championship next year in the United States, all 50 states. But I just want to say thank you for giving me an opportunity. You know, being a juggler.
Oh, hell yeah.
We don't always get these big time invitations. I've been watching your opera singer. That last podcast with your opera singer that I got to see was absolutely incredible.
Anthony,
I want to thank you for putting him on.
Sure. I'm glad you liked it.
And I just want to say, I know you're doing Carnegie Hall. I want to shake your hand, brother, man. That's the top. There isn't anything higher than that, man.
Carnegie Hall, December 21.
Got it. Oh my God, I'm gonna try to be there. I'm gonna try to be there. Are you nervous? You got new? Do you break any new material? What's the game plan?
I have to write everything out and show them what I'm going to do. And it has to be clean, as we do on the ship, clean shows with kids. But there's going to be no kids, and I'll probably not wear jeans and a t-shirt. I'll wear a suit.
What?
Oh yeah.
What?
High end.
Oh my.
High-end, little suit. Well, because, I'm working with this guy, Bob Anderson, and he's doing the Sinatra, Tony Bennett review show.
Wow.
So I want to look like I'm part of the Rat Pack.
Well, I'll tell you what, talking about when I was a kid in Hollywood, when I went to the Tropicana in Las Vegas, so we're talking, I'm 10 years old, so that's 1970. I mean, the women dressed, the guys. It was one of the few times where the guys could outdress the women in Las Vegas with their incredible tuxes and their cufflinks and their watches and the way they carried themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And the way they dressed when they played golf in the afternoon. It was, I got to see the last few minutes of that. But at Carnegie Hall, I would say, yeah, get dressed up.
We're going to make it
thing.
a classy show.
Wonderful.
Well, listen,
Wonderful.
we're going to get going. I want to thank my guest, Albert Lucas, for coming down the basement here on Royal Caribbean in the theater. Let's make America Italian again, ladies and gentlemen. You know my motto. First, we're going to do a nice big shout out. I said shit out. We're going to do a big shout out.
It's your show.
No, big shout out to my producer, Tatiana Blueshell, for always making sure we have a great guest on the show and we put on a nice show for people to watch. We're every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock live exclusively on my YouTube channel, which is Mike Marino Live on YouTube. We're also on Spotify. You can also watch the show on Spotify. And we're also on Italian American radio in New York City. So the motto is make America Italian again. You know what we always say. You don't know nothing, you don't see nothing, you don't say nothing. And how do I end every single one of my podcasts? By saying the same thing along with my guest. It's don't take no shit from nobody.
Don't
ready?
take, all right, go
We're
ahead.
going to say it together.
All right.
Don't take no shit from nobody. Good night. Hey, folks, thanks for watching live from my mother's basement. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, hit the word like and leave me a really cool comment. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the future episodes and you can watch some of the funniest videos on the internet. You can also listen to the show on Spotify or your favorite podcast app.